Good day, folks. Welcome to Andrew's Life. I hope everyone's doing great today. Now, I gotta admit one thing here. For those of you that have been watching me for a while, I have told you guys my story of how I went broke and how I also was homeless temporarily for a short period of time back in 2010. And looking back at those experiences and then looking at what a lot of people are doing today, I gotta say, I'm glad. In hindsight, I'm glad that I was homeless. I'm glad that I went broke during the last recession. And I'm going to, and there were a couple other times. There's a couple of other times in my adult life when I was out here being super irresponsible, and as a result, I went broke. In fact, there was a time in the early 2000s I was being super irresponsible. I was in my early 20s. I went so broke that the only thing I could afford to purchase was applesauce and tuna fish and some oatmeal and a loaf of bread and peanut butter, and that's basically what I had to eat. I had to take those ingredients and make 3 meals, which I was fortunately able to do. Because there was a time where I only had maybe $10 in my name, and with $10, that's all I was able to afford to purchase. In hindsight, I'm glad that I went broke. Because me going broke, not only did it teach me not only did I learn a valuable lesson and how important it is to plan ahead, how important it is to plan for your future, how important it is to save and do a little bit of investing. But during the times I was broke, those times also taught me that just because you go broke doesn't mean it's going to be the end. If anyone that goes broke, I would say 9.9 times out of 10, you're going to survive, you're going to make it through. And if you actually take a moment and you learn some valuable lessons, you will make it on the other end doing far better. And those are some of the lessons I've learned back when I went broke during the last recession. Back when I filed bankruptcy and I had to let go of my new cars. I had to let go of my house, which I purchased a house brand new. First one in the house. I told you that story several times on this channel. And the reason why I'm grateful to have gone through those experiences is because those experiences has helped made me the man that I am today. It helped make me that much of a stronger person. Because I notice today, there's a lot of folks out here that are just out here just completely crashing the fuck out. Like, I notice on a daily basis when I'm on my way to work and I'm on my way back home from work. You got a lot of people out here driving super reckless. You got a lot of people wanting to go 85, 90 miles an hour in a 50. It's almost like you got a lot of these people that and I'm going to guess that you got a lot of these people that got these super ridiculous car notes that they can no longer afford to pay or don't want to pay. And the only way they know to get out of making those payments is to crash their vehicle. and then take out an insurance claim, and then, they don't have to make those payments no more. Now, I'm not sure what the insurance laws here in Alabama are, but I do realize that some states you have to have what's called gap insurance. So whatever your regular insurance policy doesn't cover, your gap insurance will cover. And if you wreck your vehicle, your insurance will pay for the vehicle, and you're scot-free. You no longer have a car payment to worry about. And I'm thinking that there's people out here that are trying to do exactly that. And there's people out here that are willing to take cemetery chances. You got people out here that are willing to give their life up. They don't care about the safety of anybody else around them. You got people out here that are willing to do next to anything to get rid of that car note. And I am convinced that there's some people out here that are so miserable that, they hate their life. They hate their job. They hate the fact that they have a crap load of debts that they gotta pay. You got a lot of people that feel as if they have no control over their life. So I think there's some people out here that their attitude is, if they lose control of their vehicle and they hit a tree or they hit another vehicle and they lose their life, whatever, it is what it is. They no longer have to suffer no longer. And I think there's people out here that genuinely feel like that. And that's sad. But I do think like that, just judging how reckless a lot of people are driving these days. In fact, I stopped off at a traveling plaza last week when I was on my way home from Indiana. And there was a fella going off. Like, he is going off big time. And I believe he was talking to his wife or his significant other. Because apparently he lost his job. And I guess him and his wife were arguing about something right in the middle of the store. And this guy was going off. There's a bunch of us that stopped what we was doing, and we just kind of staring. We just going to see, is he going to do anything? Are we going to have to grab our phone and call law enforcement? What's going on? But fortunately, after about 5 minutes, he chilled the hell out. But we was, a bunch of us were concerned for a minute. We thought he was going to do something drastic. So, and I think the reason why a lot of people are crashing out is because, another reason why rather a lot of people are crashing out is because you got a lot of people that, that have tried to apply for a certain type of job, a job that they feel they're qualified to work, and you got more people now than before being denied those opportunities. And there's a bunch of people out here that may have never been told no before. That may have never been denied before. And once in their life, they're being told no, they're being denied. They're being told, not you, somebody else. And there's a lot of people out here that can't seem to handle that. And I know there's another thing. There's also a lot of people out here now, more so than I saw before, that are attaching their self-identity to how big of a house that they can purchase, how nice and fancy of a vehicle that they can purchase, how expensive of clothing and jewelry that they can purchase. And there's a bunch of men today, more so now than before, at least from what I've seen. But there seems to be a bunch of y'all men out here that you're using your money, you're using material goods to impress the women in your life. So for those of you that may have recently suffered a job loss, and you had to go home and you had to tell your woman about how you lost your job, and now you had to rearrange your budget, which involved telling your woman no a few more times than what she would like to hear you say. For some of you, you're starting to find out that your woman really never loved you in the first place. I mean, yeah, she says she loved you, but in reality, sadly, she didn't. I mean, more of you are waking up and you're waking up to those divorce papers being on the table. Because many of you men are finding out that, okay, yeah, you wowed her into your life with your money. And at the time, you thought you was doing something because, you had this money, you were successful, you felt like you was on top of the world, and now you got the woman that you wanted at that time. Unfortunately, the woman only wanted you for one thing, and that was for your money. That was for your resources. And now that you don't have as many resources as you may have had before you lost your job, now a lot of you men are waking up to the realization that your woman never loved you. And a woman that supposedly loved you, and she says she loved you, now she's taking you to court. I mean, she's got her divorce attorney on speed dial. And best believe she's been online talking to all her single female friends. She's been talking to child support, to the child support people, and she's been trying to figure how she's gonna legally be able to separate you from some of your resources, i.e. child support, i.e. the divorce, the divorce settlement and all that type of stuff. So there's a lot of you men, there's some of you men that are crashing out because of that. And there's a lot of you guys out here in general that you never been broke before. You never been broke. You never been in a position of need. You never had to compromise. Everything up to this point, everything you wanted, you always got. Some of you, when you were a kid, you threw a tantrum and you got what you wanted. As adults, whatever you wanted, if you couldn't pay cash, you just ripped out your credit card and you bought that shit. And for some of you, the time has came to where maybe your credit cards are all maxed out. You lost your job. You have no income coming in other than a little bit of unemployment. And for some of you, your credit may not be up to snuff, so credit card companies are no longer extending your credit line. They're no longer extending credit card offers to you. So for once, you have to live that cash diet. Whatever you purchase, you got to pay for in cash immediately. There is no credit line. So now some of you guys are forced to have to make choices. You're forced to have to make choices. Choices that you weren't forced to have to make before. Some of you guys are waking up to the realization that you cannot have everything you want when you want it because you want it. So now, sometimes some of y'all got to wake up and tell yourselves no. You got to tell yourselves no. And many of you don't like telling yourselves no. And I believe that's another reason why there's a lot more people out here now than before that are out here crashing out. Some of you are taking cemetery chances. And I think when I say cemetery, I think you guys know what I mean by cemetery chances. Some of y'all are taking those chances. Some of y'all are getting super deep into your emotions. You're not thinking collectively. You're not thinking about tomorrow. You're not sitting down and formulating a plan of how you can do better for tomorrow. You're not even bothering to look at some of the mistakes you may have made that may have got you in the position that you're currently facing. A lot of you are quick to blame politics, which, it could be some of what you're going through could have a thing or two to do with politics. A lot of you want to blame this one, you want to blame that one. And I'm not saying that some of the people that you're blaming aren't at fault. what I'm saying is, for a lot of you, when you get done blaming who you blame, you don't bother to look in the mirror at any time and figure out how you can do better. Figure out how you can overcome the challenges that have entered into your life. A lot of you immediately, you go straight to crash out mode. You out here driving super fast, putting the lives of other people who should have rolled with you on the line. People that might be walking, you're putting their lives on the line, you're putting your own life on the line. If you got passengers in the car, you're putting their lives on the line. If you got your kids in the car, you're putting their lives on the line as well. And some of you are doing other things. I mean, maybe you're abusing illegal substances. Some of you might be doing other things. So I think, in honesty, I think for me, the reason why I'm not out here crashing out like many people are crashing out right now is because, for one, back when I went broke several years ago, I learned at that time that I need to save money. I always need to be putting money away. I always need to be investing. Even if it's small, I need to do some kind of investing. And I've learned that lesson a long time ago, back when I went broke. And the fact that I was temporarily living out of my car, which at the time was a Chevy Cavalier, and at night I was sleeping at a parking lot which is located by a McDonald's up in Indianapolis. So the fact that I had to go through that temporarily taught me that if I ever had to go through that again, which I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen again. But if for whatever reason that were to happen again, I know that I'm going to survive. I know that on the other side, I will survive. I will still be alive. Life goes on. I will have the opportunity to do better again. And given the fact that whenever I travel, like, back when I was doing more traveling blogs on the channel, I would sleep in my van at night. And remind you, my van does not have solar on it. I mean, I'm just sleeping in a basic minivan. There's nothing special. No solar, no expensive fancy equipment. Whenever I travel around and I use my van, I sleep in my van. I mean, in fact, this past trip I took to Indiana, on my way back, I had like an hour and a half more to go before I got home. I was super tired. So I had to pull off at a resting area off of the freeway. And I slept in my car. But my car is relatively small. But I slept in my car. So, doing those things, again, it just goes to prove to myself that if I had to do that for survival, I could. And I know I'm going to survive it. As for there's a lot of you people out here that you've never been in those positions before. You've never been in a position to where you had to live out of your vehicle because for whatever reason you were unable to afford rent or mortgage. I mean, some of you, to be quite frank, you were raised in a single mother home. Your mother coddled you a little too much, And mainly I'm talking about a lot of you men out here. You know, you're raising a single mother home, your mother collared you a little too much. And now that you're out here a grown up and adult, you're not able to properly take care of yourself. You know, when things get crazy, a lot of y'all fold. You crash out because you haven't been, you know, nobody in your family toughens you up enough to where you can get out here and survive. And these are the reasons why I think a lot of people are crashing out, especially you men. And I'm going to add another reason why I think more men are crashing out more so now than ever before. Men today are more emotional than men of yesteryear. Like, for an example, there's a lot of you men out here that allow a woman to validate you. You allow material goods to validate you. As where the men of yesteryear, they didn't allow women to validate them so much. They didn't allow material goods to validate them so much, not like today. And also, let's face it, today with social media the way it is, you got people on TikTok that are making videos flexing, and they're talking about how rich they are and how they got this and how they got that. And even though half of what they say is nothing but a bull-faced lie, at the time you're watching that video, many of you don't realize that. You assume that that person is telling the truth, that they really got it going on like that. So for those of you that don't have it going on like that, you just lost your job, you're broke, you can't afford to pay your bills now, you've been out of work for 2-3 months at this point, and you're looking at this person who you're following on social media, and then you're looking in the mirror at yourself, and you're like, man, what did I fuck up at? And now and now these social media influencers, they got you feeling some kind of way. They got you feeling lower than low. As where back in the day, even when I was younger, even back when I was going through what I was going through during the last recession, there were no TikTok. TikTok wasn't even thought about. Yeah, we had YouTube, but guess what? You didn't have content full of people that were online flexing like you do today. You see, back in the day, even if okay, maybe you had a few people that was online flexing, but it wasn't near as big as it was today. And even though we all may have known a person or two that may have been flexing on social media, or they may have been flexing in real life, you know, many of us didn't give a shit. We didn't care. I know I didn't care. Because my thing was, you know, I got to do what I got to do to survive and stay alive. I ain't got time to be sitting around here getting all into my emotions, having another man make me feel like I'm lower than shit because I don't got what the fuck they got, man. So I ain't got time for all that, man. I don't care. I ain't got time for that. And in fact, in some of the places where I lived, if you flex too hard, you might be liable to get your ass robbed. But anyways, you know, I just didn't have time to worry about who had this and who had that. I didn't care. All I cared about was survival and getting back on my feet to where I was doing better in life. That's all I cared about. Didn't care about nobody else. And a lot of men today aren't like that. There's too many men today that do care about what other people think. And to me, that's the downfall. Even some of you women that are like that, that's your downfall. So hopefully you guys got something out of this video. And for those of you that are getting ready to suffer a job loss, or you're thinking you're going to suffer a job loss, if you haven't done so already, start putting money aside and saving it. Open up a mutual fund. Open up a Roth IRA. This is not financial advice. This is just stuff that some of this stuff. These are just some of the things that I do. Open up a mutual fund. Open up a Roth IRA. Start putting some money away. Start investing. Start doing some kind of investing. And make sure you're living below your means. Well below your means if feasible. Don't worry about what other people think of you. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. I remember during the last recession, there used to be a joke. The Joneses are now broke. And guess what? I still would say to this day, the Joneses are broke. So don't try to keep up with them. They're broke. And for you younger folks out here, don't waste your youth. If you're able to work an extra job, work an extra job. If you're able to learn a new skill to where you can earn a better income and it's not going to put you head over heels in debt, go ahead and learn that new skill. And when it comes to work, rather than allowing some job title to make you feel some kind of way, rather than being stuck on job titles, understand whatever work you do, the money you're making off of that work you do is a tool. That money is a tool that you use to pay your bills. It's also a tool that you use to plan for your future, i.e. your retirement, i.e. for that rainy day fund, i.e. for that FU fund, for when you go to work one day and you get fed up and you decide to walk off your job. That's all I got for you guys. Stay blessed.